couple of patients, I've even gone up to 12 to help with that urinary stress incontinence. That's really nice. So, but if somebody's having the UTIs or they have to go to the bathroom.
Vaginal estrogen for UTIs and urinary symptoms. Hi, I'm Dr. Valorie Davidson from the Progress Your Health podcast.
And I'm Dr. Maki from the Progress Your Health podcast. So the last one we did, you find the link up here somewhere. We talked about estrogen for vaginal dryness. That's the GSM, genital urinary syndrome of menopause. I think I say symptoms all the time. So we just talked about the genital side. Now we're going to talk about the urinary side.
So like we talked about on the previous podcast, estradiol, vaginal estradiol, and vaginal estriol are both really well tolerated and very healthy for the vaginal microbiome and also for the urinary tract. Now, estradiol, you have to be a little bit more careful because it is the stronger estrogen. Estriol is much gentler, but estradiol, you just have to be a little careful with the dosing if somebody has a uterus, especially if their uterus is very sensitive to estrogen, because estradiol can thicken the endometrial lining easier than the estriol. The estriol doesn't have quite as much of that effect. Now, estradiol vaginally, estradiol can be very minimal into the bloodstream. It can have very little effect. You're not using it every day, twice a day, so it is well tolerated. I do find with estriol when I'm working on the urinary tract that I like the estriol in a way because I can go really higher with those doses. Because the urinary tract, especially women that are having more frequent urinary tract infections after menopause, that you can go higher on the doses, and I'm going to go over the doses of the estriol, where with the estradiol, I really don't go too much higher than 0.5 milligrams, sometimes 1 milligram, if we're using it vaginally as estradiol. Now, if somebody doesn't have a uterus, that's a little bit of a different story, but if someone has a uterus, I want to be more careful. But when you're looking at GSM, the syndrome, but symptoms of GSM for the urinary tract is women can have more frequent urinary tract infections. They can even have it where it feels like you have this sort of, like you just feel like you have to go to the bathroom. It feels like it's uncomfortable, almost like you feel like you're getting an infection, but you don't have an infection. Also, too, another symptom, and you see this also in perimenopause, especially when the estrogen is starting to dive, is waking up a lot to go to the bathroom. Even if you don't have a full bladder, it's like, oh, I feel like I have to go. You go, and maybe it's a quarter or a half a bladder. So using any kind of estrogen vaginally can be really, really incredible for that. And then on another flip side, that vaginal estrogen can be helpful for is if you have urinary stress incontinence. Now, there's so many different reasons for having urinary stress incontinence. But if it's that urethra, because of the lack of estrogen, gets a little bit lax, sometimes it's easier to have like a little leakage if you're coughing, or if you have to go, but you're holding it, all of a sudden you're leaking before you get to the toilet. So that can be really tremendous for that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been using, we prefer estriol. And granted, we have used estradiol.
We go back and forth because
sure.
I know estradiol is very easily available. The cost of it is pretty well, for the general, at least in the United States here, women have access to estradiol much more easily than estriol.
Yeah, estriol is only going to come from a compounding pharmacy.
Yeah. And it might be a little bit more pricey, so you're looking at affordability there.
Sure.
So if it's a difference between, no estrogen and estrogen, take estrogen.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. One of the, some versus none, take the some, and that's better than having nothing. And honestly, we've seen quite a few miracles over the years using vaginal estrogen, whether it's for dryness or incontinence, or I've even had a few patients that have had improvement in their prolapse,
Yes.
their bladder and uterine prolapse by using estrogen, and where they didn't require surgery. Now, granted, the problem wasn't completely solved by using, some estriol cream, but it made it where it was tolerable, and they really weren't really looking to have surgery anyways. Whatever. So it just gives a lot of options, and it can be, pretty profound in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and just, we've dealt with lots of patients, so we've heard lots of experiences, and just my own. I remember when I was going through menopause, I was doing some static dosing. I try everything before I went on the rhythmic dosing, because and I'm sure all you ladies might have this habit too, where it's like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go urinate, I have to go pee. but I just want to do one more thing, or let me tidy this thing up real quick, or let me just check this real quick. And then I remember by the time I was getting to the bathroom, I actually peed my pants. And I've always been, I've always kind of felt like I had a small bladder. You always know that I have to go to the bathroom a lot.
Like a kindergartner.
But I did notice it was like I had to go more and more when I went through menopause, not because I was holding on to water, I was letting go of water. It was just like, it just felt like I had to go. So using that vaginal estrogen was really nice to kind of tonify up that urethra. Like you said, the pelvic floor muscles can also get tonified. One thing that vaginal estrogen can help with is when it thickens the lining of the vaginal mucosa, the tissue can put out glycogen. So glycogen is basically like sugar, like food or fuel for the lactobacillus, which is the predominant species in your vaginal vault microbiome. So the more lactobacillus you have, the lower the pH it is in your vaginal vault, and then it's a nice, beautiful, symbiotic ecosystem. But when that lactobacillus goes down because the estrogen went down, then they don't get their fuel sources, less lactobacillus, higher pH. It makes you much more prone to the E. coli, which is a predominant bacteria that's going to cause urinary tract infections for the baddies to come in. Those E. coli, the baddies, the lacto go down and the baddies come in. It can crawl up that urethra, cause a bladder infection, cause a urinary tract infection. It can also make you more predisposed to having bacterial vaginosis as well.
Well, one thing that we don't want is we don't want women having to run to the doctor to get antibiotics or just have too much exposure to them in general. So this is a very great sort of, seems obvious to us, but out of the box kind of a thought process of, because a woman is not supposed to get just a random UTI, right? Just casually living their life. I just had a patient the other day and she was traveling internationally, did not have any intercourse and developed a UTI. That's not really supposed to happen. And women in their 20s and 30s, now some women very much are prone to them, and there's a lot of factors that can go into what makes them prone. We're trying to make sure we don't create that vicious cycle, antibiotic, infection, infection, antibiotic, infection, antibiotic, because the more exposure you have, the more susceptible you are to those reoccurring infections.
Yeah, so men have longer urethras. That's why they don't get urinary tract infections as frequently or ever. And women have shorter, and some women have shorter urethras, so they're going to be more prone. When they go through menopause, that urethra gets a little bit lax. Like I said, the pH changes, the E. coli can crawl up there. So when you're using the vaginal estrogen, for the year, people that were more maintenance for UTIs, like they haven't had one, but they've maybe gotten a few in the last few years, and they've never had them before, then I might have them do the estriol vaginally or estradiol like once a week if it's just for urinary tract infections prevention as maintenance. Now, if somebody's having more bacterial or if they're having more like BV issues, I'll probably have them maybe do it 1 to 2 times a week. Maybe you can even add in, which is another classic, this is from education, not for medical advice, is you can do boric acid. Vaginal capsules are really nice, 300, usually 600 milligrams is the magic number. That's sometimes you use 300 in people, but 600 is usually the magic number, is you can do that once a week to maintain that vaginal pH. That's a nice thing to go and sort of in conjunction with your vaginal estrogen. But when I'm using estriol for just the urinary tract, where the vaginal dryness was the episode before, is I can even go up higher to like 5 milligrams. Sometimes I'll even go closer to 10 milligrams of estriol. I would never do that as estradiol vaginally, never. That's way too high. But estriol, you can go a little bit higher, even up. A couple of patients, I've even gone up to 12 to help with that urinary stress incontinence. That's really nice. So, but if somebody's having the UTIs or they feel like they have to go to the bathroom, a lot of times I'll use anywhere between 2 milligrams of estriol up to 4 milligrams of estriol 1 to 3 times a week vaginally. We'll either put it around the introitus, around the opening of the vaginal vault, or use an applicator to insert it into the vaginal vault. And I have them, of course, do that at night. Do that at night and put a little panty liner in.
Yeah. It's we've been using it for years. Really good solution. It almost always works. Sometimes, like you said, you got to play with the dosing in some respects. And now maybe on the leakage side, like you said, the stress incontinence, that just seems like it's almost like every woman is going to experience that. It's a big deal. right? And very common, happens to everyone. Now, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't solve the problem completely. Like a really hard sneeze, okay, maybe you have a little bit.
Oh, yeah, if there's some mechanics going on, it's not a be all end all for urinary stress incontinence. Truly, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you can still get,
but
you
you
know,
can get some help
50,
with it.
70, 80% improvement, maybe sometimes even up to 90% improvement.
If it's from GSM.
Yeah. It's those, a few exceptions where it might not go away completely.
And then using that, like I'd mentioned about waking up in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom, it can help you not have to go to the bathroom as much. Now, we're girls. A lot of us wake up at least once a night to maybe go to the bathroom, or if you drink a lot of water during the day. I drink a lot of water in the evening. So, of course, but I have noticed if you're waking up several times at night to go to the bathroom, but it's not a full bladder and you don't have a UTI, then vaginal estrogen can definitely be beneficial.
Sorry.
We bring our dogs here, and one of them's kind of hot and panting.
Yeah.
Panter.
They're the
We got a panter.
they're the production crew, and right now it's August here. It's a little
Feel
hot.
that warm? Do you feel warm?
No, it's
warm.
fine. He's just a little bit of a baby sometimes, and he hates this office. Anyways, sorry for the digression. But he's like panting right in our ear as we're trying to do
He's
this.
so cute.
Yeah, he's adorable.
All right, let's see. I took a little notes here to just kind of talk about, okay, we did the vaginal one. Yeah, the stress, urinary irritation. Of course, always get yourself checked. Make sure, do I have a UTI? Is it BV? Is it yeast? So make sure you get yourself checked, but know that vaginal estrogen can be really beneficial for the urinary tract.
Now, we're going to do another episode on UTIs in general, but one thing I would like to say about limiting exposure to antibiotics. If you don't have symptoms but show positive on a UTI dipstick, we don't recommend treatment in that respect because now you're giving antibiotics for no symptoms. And women do not have silent UTIs.
Well, some do, especially over the women that are older, maybe in their 70s or 80s, especially
True.
post.
Now, granted, we don't have a
that's
lot in
totally
that category,
different.
right? We don't have a lot, and the women that we do have in their 70s are not elderly yet.
No, they're in great shape.
yeah,
They're good.
yeah.
But some women, I mean, just to speak to that, like especially in like nursing homes or whatnot, sometimes they exhibit more behavioral issues when they have a UTI rather than showing that they have pain. And once you correct their UTI, then those behavioral or mood issues, diminish completely.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. So I don't want to say don't ever use antibiotics. Please, you don't want to get a kidney infection. You don't want bladder infections are the worst. I mean, not everybody. I'm sure somebody's had a UTI that's watching this and know that they're not fun. So if you have to use antibiotics, absolutely. Our goal here is to try to minimize the use of antibiotics so you don't become antibiotic resistant.
Yeah. And just limiting exposure. So over the course of a year, and over time, you're just not accumulating, especially for the women. This really bodes to the women that are having reoccurring infections. We're trying to break that cycle because those are the ones that are going to end up with some problems. You're going to trade one problem for another. You take one antibiotic a year for UTI, no big deal, right? And honestly, I think what's the average? I haven't looked this up in a while, like 1.3 UTIs a year or something like that.
I'd have to look that up.
Yeah,
but I do feel with GSM, because it is the result of the lack of estrogen, in the vaginal tissues, that you can really do, like I was saying, the different. If you're going to have estrogen, take the estrogen in the vagina.
Yeah.
Do it because it can be really beneficial for women that are getting UTIs frequently from GSM.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure if there's anything else to talk about on this one.
So if anybody has some questions about this, like I'm sure we could go on. Honestly, we're very verbose. I could talk forever. But if anybody has any questions, concerns, or your own story, please write it in the comments, or you can write it on our website if you don't feel comfortable. On the website, we always change everybody's names if we talk about you.
Yeah. Until next time, I'm Dr. Maki.
And I'm Dr. Valorie.
Take care. Bye-bye.